Hello, welcome back to Joe's Knows College Football, episode 2. We have not been here for a while. Last one was Max Chadwick back in week 3 for a huge week that was. But now we're in the last legs of the college football season when the conference championship week we are in right now. Of course, we're here with Matt Freeman, Will Krakowski, Zay Lou, and me, Jack Cameron. We're going to be going over different playoff scenarios, our Heisman pick, which is basically between Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, and the 5 Power 5 championship games that are going to come down to these different playoff scenarios that we are going to have 3 of them right now. We're going to decide what the 3rd and 4th team should be in if these playoff scenarios happen. We'll start off with Matt. We'll go for the first one. If Georgia wins, if Washington wins, if Texas wins, if Michigan wins, and Florida State wins, so basically all 4 undefeated teams right now win, who gets in that 4th spot between Florida State and Texas?
I think this one should be pretty easy. Although Texas has the impressive win over Alabama, you can't fault Georgia, Michigan, Washington, and Florida State for just going undefeated, running the table. So those 4 undefeated teams would have to be in that scenario.
Yeah, I'm not really impressed with this Texas team as of late. Quinn Ewers, he hasn't looked at the quarterback that he was been promising Texas to be the past few years, and Arch Manning stepping up. Obviously, he's not going to take his role at all. But I mean, Quinn Ewers just hasn't delivered. I don't like what the offense has done. I know they have some impressive wins. They're undefeated, but as Matt said, I would stick with what the solid 4.
I mean, I'm gonna be just like you guys. I'm gonna say it up front. Texas should not be in there over an undefeated team like Florida State, even though they don't have Jordan Travis and they have their backup in Tate Rodemaker. They're just still a better team than this Texas team as of right now. Texas in their last game did lose to Texas State. Quinn Ewers had 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I mean, just a quarterback like that being in the college football playoff, I just don't think makes any sense at all. So I'm going to stick with you guys.
Yeah, the only reason we're talking about this is because there's a lot of talk in the media about Florida State not getting in because of their quarterback loss and thinking that they're undeserving not getting in. But I think we all disagree. I think Florida State has deserved that season to get into the college football playoff if they beat Louisville. Our second scenario is Oregon beating Washington, and then Texas beating Oklahoma State, Georgia beating Alabama, Michigan beating Iowa, and Florida State beating Louisville. So the 3 undefeated teams would get in: Georgia, Michigan, Florida State. That 4th spot, who do you decide between Oregon or Texas?
Yeah, so this is obviously a very tough one. I'm going to have to go with Oregon here, although their strength of schedule really does not match up to this point to Texas's. Assuming they win against Washington, that will be a signature win. And you look at Texas's resume, they had a great win against Texas Tech last week, but they've been in absolute dogfights with teams that really aren't in the college football playoff landscape. You look at Houston, you look at Kansas State, you look at TCU, and you look at Iowa State. Those were all 10-point games or under. So, I mean, I don't think that team deserves to get into the college football playoff over a team like Oregon, led by Bo Nix, that's been absolutely dominating as of late. So, if it's between Oregon and Texas, I think Oregon has to be the team to get in.
Yeah, and Jack, Matt gave you the deep analysis. I'll go to the surface level. Oregon's just a better team. I don't care how the record plays out. Bo Nix is the much better quarterback. I mean, the entire team. I can go on and listen to the entire roster, but it's not needed. Oregon's a much better team in a lot of different positions. I would take them any day.
I mean, exactly what you said, Jack. Sorry, Will. It's exactly the same thing. Oregon should be in based off of just surface area. They're just the better team. The point differential in their last couple of games has been 29 points. They've outscored their opponents in November 179-66. It's just been an absolute just dumpster fire on the other end for the other teams that are not Oregon.
Yeah, I agree with all of you. I think Oregon gets in. This Oregon team has looked like its best it had since they had Marcus Mariota. So I think they'll get into that 4th spot. But look, this Texas team is not bad at all. They are one of the best teams in the country. 2024 draft, they're gonna have a lot of 1st and 2nd rounders coming in, and this is where Texas can really make their conversation in our 3rd and last realistic playoff scenario. Washington beats Oregon or Oregon beats Washington. Doesn't really matter. Texas beats Oklahoma State. Alabama beats Georgia. Michigan beats Iowa. Florida State beats Louisville. So it'd be the first three: Michigan, Washington, Florida State. How do you decide between Alabama and Texas? Both 12-1 teams, both winning their conference. Alabama would have beaten Georgia, who has been the best team in college football for the past 3 years, or Texas, who beat Alabama in week 2 in Tuscaloosa, Matt.
So if the conversation is between Georgia, Texas, Alabama having the head-to-head win over Georgia, I think would knock Georgia out of the conversation. Georgia obviously has been phenomenal the past couple of years, back-to-back national champions, but we're in 2023. Those years do not matter. Pretty much the entire roster from last year is gone. So it's a completely different team. Last year should not be taken into account. If they lose, they've played through a weak schedule all the way up until now. If they lose to Alabama, there is no way that you can put them ahead of Alabama and ahead of Texas. I think you would have to go with Alabama here to slide in. I understand they do have the loss to Texas in the head-to-head, but the way that Alabama has looked as of late is like they are a much better team than Texas right now. So if Alabama pulls off the win against Georgia, that win speaks volumes. Texas has not looked very good. They're playing a not-so-great Oklahoma State team. That win doesn't really do much for me. I don't think it will do too much for the committee. So in this situation, I think Alabama should get into the last spot.
Yeah, Matt, you got the full analysis, and once again, I mean, Jalen Milroe is right now one of the hottest players in college football. The media loves him. If Alabama, comes out with this win over Georgia, I think without a doubt they're going to jump on putting him back in there. This isn't an Alabama team that's been all, they're the best team. We don't want to see Alabama in the playoffs again. There's a bit of excitement around this Nick Saban coach team and Jalen Milroe. It's a bit of a young squad. It's got a lot of energy. The media will want to see it. They definitely will put Jalen Milroe and the Crimson Tide in the playoffs if they pull off the big win against Georgia.
I mean, exactly what you guys said. Alabama over Texas in this situation. Jaden Milroe has looked amazing as of late. Quinn Ewers, even if they do get this win over an Oklahoma State team, it's just the only thing they have going for them is Ollie Gordon II at the running back position. Their quarterback does have 10 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. Not the best. A team like Georgia has not lost in 2 years, back-to-back national champions. You got to take that into account. And also point differential. If Alabama beats this team by a touchdown or even more, there's no question that they are let into the college football playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be tough turning down Alabama after beating the number 1 team in the country. That's why I agree. I think Alabama will get in, especially you guys have been saying Jalen Milroe. His play has been amazing. He said he was supposed to get the Heisman. I don't know if I agree with that, but he has been playing amazing with Alabama. So I think that'll be the 4 teams for that scenario. But moving on to our Heisman picks. Right now, it's all coming down to Jane Daniels and Bo Nix. It really comes down to this next game for Bo Nix. If he has an amazing one, he could be the leading guy. But a lot of people think he's the leading guy no matter what happens on Friday night.
Yeah, so I think that it's a tough debate. I can see both sides, but I'm going to lean to Jaden Daniels here. I think statistically, it really is one of the best seasons we've ever seen. It's on par with Joe Burrow's season, and you could argue Jaden Daniels does not have the same weapons as Joe Burrow had. I mean, he's leading the entire college football landscape in QBR, 40 touchdowns to 4 picks. He's got 3,800 yards. It's really unbelievable what he's doing. And with his legs, he has been phenomenal. I just think he does everything on both sides of the ball, both throwing and running. Obviously, he cannot play defense for LSU. So I get it. He does have those key losses. But, I mean, you can see on the screen right now, he is leading in almost every category. I think it is pretty clear that he should be the Heisman this year.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt. Matt, you said it. He can't play defense. This LSU team, without – as you said, Jaden Daniels is putting on a historic show offensively, but their defense is doing something historic in a terrible way. I mean, they are such a below average defense for what they're supposed to be putting on the field. Their offense is scoring points at the highest rate in all of college football, and they're losing game after game. It's embarrassing. They lost to Ole Miss like 54-51. I mean, they're like, that can't be happening. Jane Daniels, when it comes time for the draft, people are going to be able to pick out flaws. But when you look at what he accomplished this year, without a doubt, there should be no option choosing Bo Nix. Bo Nix is a bit of a dump off guy. He's a running back out of the backfield. Bucky, whatever his last name is, always and like, if you look at the average depth of target between Jane Daniels, Michael Penix, and Bo Nix, there's a huge difference. The offensive line comparison, there's there are more weapons on LSU, but you cannot discredit what Jane Daniels did.
I mean, for me, I'm gonna have to disagree with you guys. I mean, for me, it's pretty hard to not give a man who leads the nation in passing yards, completion percentage, is second in passing touchdowns, has he's around 32nd in passing rating, second in total touchdowns. I mean, I'm not gonna discredit anything that Jaden Daniels has done. He's had jaw-dropping numbers this season. But this man, Bo Nix, is currently on track to lead Oregon. I mean, if he wins over Washington, he's going to lead Oregon to their first college football playoff appearance since 2014. He has the winning aspect in his favor against a guy like Jaden Daniels, and he's going to be just like the last Oregon Duck player to win the Heisman and another player that led the college football atmosphere in touchdowns, passing yards, and had one loss, Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, see, Bo Nix would be my pick here if something that Jane Daniels has done never happened before. But the thing that's happened is that this has happened. Lamar Jackson in 2017, his team went 9-3 and he won the Heisman. So that's my reasoning for I think Jane Daniels should win it. This has happened before. We're a team who's not near the college football playoff, but around the in the top 15 and having an historic season like Lamar was having that season. I mean, we've seen the stats. Jane Daniels statistically is having a better season than Joe Burrow did in 2019. And that is something insane. I just don't think you could turn that down. I'm going to take Jane Daniels here. But moving on to our conference championship games, we'll start off with the easy one. We'll go to Will first, the Big Ten, number 2 Michigan versus Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yeah, you gave me a layup here. I mean, if you take Iowa, you're psychotic or you're an Iowa fan. Michigan State has been steamrolling every team. And, I mean, Iowa's got a really solid defense, of course. They're going to make it tough on that side of the ball. But I believe Jim Harbaugh's back. This is just going to be a Michigan steamroll.
Right here. After coming off of a thrilling 30-24 victory over the Ohio State Buckeyes in the game, I mean, Michigan, they honestly solidified their Big Ten championship hopes, their NCAA playoff hopes, and they're going to steamroll and mop the floor with Iowa in this game. I mean, Iowa, they should have lost to a team like Nebraska. They were up 13-10. Sorry, they were tied 10-10 and then got a lucky interception off of Chuba Purdy and set up a game-winning field goal. That is not going to fly against the team like Michigan. They're going to hurt you in the running game. That's Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum. They have J.J. McCarthy, who can just dump it off to his running backs. And we saw this exactly in the Penn State game against a great defense. And they're going to do the exact same thing against Iowa and win by a big margin.
Yeah, I'm going to be taking Michigan to win here after that huge win over Ohio State. I mean, there's no way to lose to the Iowa team. Deacon Hill, honestly, one of the worst quarterbacks I've watched in my life. I was watching the Iowa-Nebraska game. He is like very, very bad. And the fact he's starting for a number 18 ranked team is honestly sad. I don't see Iowa scoring more than 7 points here. I have Michigan winning this one easy.
Yeah, I think this game is going to be a real tough one to watch. I think Michigan will dominate, but Iowa's defense will keep them in the game for at least a minute. Zach Zinter, I mean, obviously he broke his leg. He'll be out for this one. So Michigan dealing with some injuries. I'm really not sold on J.J. McCarthy's ability to win you a football game. He's not going to be in that situation for this week in the Big Ten Championship. He can just keep using his weapons, using his system, and win this one easy. But I just don't think there's going to be too many style points here for Michigan.
All right, moving on to what should be an easy game as well, the Big 12 Championship, number 19, Oklahoma State Cowboys versus the number 7 Texas Longhorns. Zay, you can go first.
I mean, honestly, this game comes down to one factor for me. Will Texas live up to expectations? I mean, their last game was pretty darn good against a very good 6-6 Texas Tech team that had wins against teams like Kansas and TCU, and they stayed in it in a game against one of the best one-loss teams in the country in Oregon. And this game was anticipated to be a very good one, and the score was 57-7. I mean, it was an absolute masterclass shown by Texas's star linebacker, Jalen Ford. He led the way, 8 tackles. Jaden Blue, the second string running back on Texas, had 100-plus rushing yards. And this is going to be the exact same against Oklahoma State unless they play like they did earlier in the season. They're just like Oklahoma. They're either extremely talented one game or they're exactly like Iowa. They have no source of offense at all. They have to be on point in locking down Ollie Gordon, and those are the key factors that they need in order to win this game by a lot.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take Texas here. It's just the offense of Texas is just way too explosive. Brooks, Ewers, Mitchell, and Worthy, those 4 players right now this season have just been playing amazing. You saw it in that Alabama game, week 2. They all went crazy, and I easily have Texas winning this one and trying to get themselves into the playoffs.
Yeah, I really want to take Oklahoma State here really badly. Being an Ohio State fan, the Cowboys winning would be my only chance at getting my Buckeyes in there, but it's really just not going to happen. You've seen this Oklahoma State defense really struggle since they lost defensive coordinator Jim Knowles a couple years ago. I mean, the offense is just not necessarily there. Ollie has been fantastic with the running game, but you really don't have an elite quarterback at the helm. You don't have an elite defense, so I just don't see how they're going to slow Texas down.
Yeah, Matt said it best. It's not going to happen. Texas is they're gonna win this game pretty handily. This offense is too explosive. Matt, you said it best. Oklahoma State's defense just hasn't impressed so far as of late.
All right, moving on to the ACC Championship. Louisville coming off a really bad loss against a very mediocre Kentucky team versus the number four Florida State Seminoles without Jordan Travis, but looked pretty solid against that Florida team in Gainesville.
I'm actually going to take Florida State here, and I know it's a trendy pick to go with Louisville because of Jordan Travis's injury, but Florida State's talent just up and down the roster with Keon Coleman, Trey Benson. I mean, even on the defensive end, Jared Verse, I believe, is one of the best edge rushers in the entire college football landscape. So I just think the talent out wide for Florida State and the defensive talent will just absolutely take over and crush an overrated Louisville team, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised that FSU even has backup quarterbacks because you could put me on this team right now. And with guys like Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman, I mean, Johnny Wilson's 6'7". Like, no one it's pretty difficult to guard a guy who is just bigger than you in every mean. Like, as you said, this offense has way too many weapons to be slowed down by this Louisville team. Louisville's played well, but I mean, the secondary has not played well whatsoever this year. I think Roadmaker's going to be able to tear them apart a little bit. I think FSU is going to win in a pretty good offensive battle.
I mean, I think it's going to be, honestly, probably a 2-touchdown win for Florida State. I believe Trey Benson is going to have an amazing game, had 3 touchdowns, 96 yards in his last game in the Swamp. They weren't able to get the ball to guys like Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson, but I believe that all changes this week. Mike Norvell said in a recent statement that he was working with Tate Rodemaker to get his main wide receivers in the schemes. And I believe this week they're going to get the ball to guys like Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson. This defense is going to be held down by Jerrion Jones and Jared Verse, and they're going to make it absolute tear on Louisville this week.
Yeah, I think just Rodemaker has to protect the ball in this game, and then if he does, keeps it to 1 or 2 turnovers, wins the turnover battle against Louisville, it'll be easy win for them. Like you guys all said, I mean, those weapons they have is going to probably just propel them to beat this Louisville team who isn't as good as Matt said. But we're going to move on to the two not pretty good games, the best games we have seen so far this season. The number 5 Oregon Ducks versus the number 3 Washington Huskies. Last game was a storybook ending. Romeo Dunze getting that touchdown inside the 2 minutes to win it for Washington at home. This one's in a neutral site, Will.
Yeah, Jack, you said it. This is it was a historic ending for Washington. And, watching that game as a Michael Penix fan, not a Washington fan, but definitely was on the edge of my seat. And after watching that game, did Washington really deserve that win? That last field goal that Oregon missed, it really didn't seem like it was their game. At Oregon, I feel like Oregon's gonna just absolutely blow out this Washington team. Michael Penix has been faltering lately. The wide receivers have just been kind of a mess. They had a terrible game in the rain last week, dropped like 8 balls. It hasn't been the offense that Washington wants. They haven't pushed the ball downfield the way they want, and the defense will not be able to hold up whatsoever against Oregon. They have the weapons, but so does Oregon. And in this type of game, I just think that Oregon is a team that has won in the past and will continue to win. As Zay said, they have a leader who all he does is win. So it's going to be tough for Washington. I'm going to take the Oregon Ducks here.
I mean, I'm going to be right behind you. Michael Penix has not had the best couple of games. In his last game, he made a lot of ill-advised throws that he was lucky that they just didn't get picked off by a not-so-good Washington State defense. And you have to go to Allegiant Stadium, like you said, a neutral site, and play one of the best offenses in the country with one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And you have to try and win a game against them. I mean, this defense for Oregon is top 30 in sacks. This offensive line for Oregon is top 5 in pass protection, only letting up 5 sacks a game. They're top 5 in basically almost every single offensive category. And Washington is going to most likely lose their number 1 receiver to the Oregon defense, with Roma Dunze most likely being locked up by Oregon's number 1 corner.
Yeah, I'm also going to be taking Oregon here. The only thing I have Washington going for them right now, especially you said Penix has not been playing good as of late, is that they've played basically everybody in the Pac-12. They have gone through such a roller coaster this season, and they've won every game. So they definitely can win this game. There's no doubt to that. But I really do love this Oregon team. Troy Franklin's having a great year, trying to get in that first round for a 2024 NFL draft. But really what Oregon stands out for me is Bo Nix and their coach Dan Lanning. I love that dynamic duo trying to win the Heisman. I think Bo Nix has an amazing game here, and they build off the pass game, hit Washington vertical, and win this one.
Yeah, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say the Washington Huskies of 2023 are equivalent to the Minnesota Vikings of 2022. Minnesota put together a great regular season. They pulled out some very close games. This Washington Huskies team has not won a game by more than 10 points in 8 weeks. They are undefeated. They have been taking care of business, but you cannot continue to keep skating by, especially against teams like Washington State. And then you look at Stanford, you win by 9 points. Arizona State, very lucky to win that one. This team has just been getting bailed out as of late, and it's a great story. I love how Penix has been playing, but I just think that Bo Nix and Oregon, they're just too much for the Huskies to handle.
All right, moving on to our last game, back to the SEC where it should be. It took a year off in Georgia versus LSU, and that was a pretty easy win for Georgia. We're back with Georgia, number 1, versus the number 8 Alabama Crimson Tide. Matt, you can go first.
Yeah, I just, as bad as I want to just be chalk and go with the Georgia Bulldogs, I'm actually going to switch it. I'm going to go with the Alabama Crimson Tide. They came off a spectacular win last week. Incredible game. I just think that there needs to be some chaos. I just can't go with the chalk pick for every conference championship game. Alabama, they have the difference makers on defense with Dallas Turner on the edge, Kool-Aid McKinstry at the cornerback. They have one of the best secondaries in the country as of late. Jalen Milroe has been playing like a Heisman candidate as of late. I'm not saying he is one, but he has been playing phenomenal. So I just think they're going to piece it together over a weakened Georgia Bulldogs team, a Georgia Bulldogs team that is definitely not as good as we've seen in years past. So I'm going to take Alabama in an upset.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna follow right behind you. I really like this Alabama defense. As you said, DJ Turner, he's not getting the love that he deserves coming off the edge. Probably going to be one of the higher drafted, edge rushers in the drafts this year. He's been a star. Kool-Aid McKinstry. I mean, all these guys have been elite on defense. The freshman, Caleb Downs as a safety has been one of the best safeties in the country. This is a young and explosive defense that is all over the field at all times. And Georgia hasn't faced a defense like this all year. They're gonna be stunned a little bit. Carson Beck has been able to cruise through his pretty easy strength of schedule. Yes, he's put up pretty incredible numbers, but I mean, it's he's really not doing it all himself. He's got himself a pretty easy scheme, and he's got himself a very, very easy schedule. I think they're going to be shocked walking into a very tough Alabama team that is extremely hungry. They've never wanted to win more in the past few years. They've come into games 12-0, 15-0, thinking that they're the boys. They're going to win it. Now they're the underdogs. They want this win. They're going to get it.
I mean, I'm gonna have to disagree with you guys. I'm sorry, Jalen Milroe cannot play in big games for me. In his 4 games against top 25 teams, he has thrown for 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, and has had a completion rate under 65%. I mean, you can also bring up the point. Jalen Milroe can use his legs if everything is covered in the secondary by the defense. Milroe's never going to have the time to make a decision like he did on that last play of the Auburn game. This Georgia defense is fluid, fast, can cause havoc for the entire game. Also, this offense has been probably, to me, one of the best Georgia has had in the past couple of years. Carson Beck, Brock Bowers, they're going to get it done in this game. And this is a must win for them. If they don't win this game, they are out of the college football playoff scene for the first time in 2 years. I don't think Kirby Smart wants to lose this game at all. He wants to ruin Nick Saban's record, make him 4-2 against his assistants, and he's going to win this game against Alabama.
And that's my problem with Georgia. I think they have everything to lose in this game, and Alabama's coming into this game with nothing to lose, but that's their mindset. They're coming into this with nothing to lose. I really do like this Georgia offense. This is the best offense they've had in a while. Ladd McConkey outside has played amazing. Brock Bowers, tight end, of course. Carson Beck, way better than the sets of Ben has ever been. But this Alabama defense does match up well against them. I expect Kool-Aid McKinstry to lock up any receiver, especially Ladd McConkey, who's a great route runner. And Alabama has been covering over the middle with their linebackers amazing all season against tight ends. I think they could, it's kind of like a Travis Kelce thing. You're not gonna, stop him. You're not gonna fully stop Brock Bowers, but you're gonna slow him down, and that's what's gonna help Alabama win this game. I do think Jalen Milroe, you talked about his, now he hasn't played good against big teams. I think last week is where he showed he did. That Iron Bowl is basically a top 25 team for Auburn. Like the rivalry that goes on there, I don't care where Auburn is. It basically counts as a big game for him, and he showed up when he needed to. I expect him to do the same here and beat Georgia to bring his team into the playoffs. But that'll do it for us for Joe's Knows College Football episode 2. We'll be back with you for after these games are done, and we'll have the 4 teams left in the season, picking between those for the New Year's Eve games. But for Matt Freeman, Will Kukowski, Zay Lou, and me, Jack Kemler, thanks for watching.